Hey guys, so today's video is going to be something that a lot of you requested. I know it's not like my typical beauty videos, but I decided to share it because, I just graduated from college and I graduated summa cum laude, which is like with high honors. I know that sometimes it seems like such a huge obstacle to conquer, and I wanted to give you guys some of my advice. I'm so excited to be collaborating with Brooke because literally I think she's one of my OG YouTube friends, and I think this might be our first collab, and I'm so excited.
Hi guys, what's up? My name is Brooke and I would love it if you could pop over to my channel. I did a 5 ways to be a student in college. I'm gonna be a junior in college, so I feel like I have some tips that can definitely be applied for whatever year you're going into. And I also make lifestyle and college videos on YouTube, so I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel and stick around. And if you're coming from my channel to Olena's, definitely subscribe because Olena's the best. And yeah, I'm super excited to be collabing today.
Show her some love, and I hope you enjoy her video. Life is much more than just grades. It's also experiences. No matter what, you can always get better. If you believe that there is this mentality that if you're not good at a certain subject, you weren't born with this natural talent to understand math, all of a sudden you're never gonna get math. That is not true. Regardless of what subject we're talking about, you can always get better. And another difference between people who are getting 4.0s and getting good grades is that they have a motivation besides an exterior motive. So say my parents, if they were like, okay, Olena, get good grades, get good grades, get good grades, that's an exterior motivation. And yeah, it will work for a certain amount of time, but probably not long term. Once you're in college, they might not have that power over you. Eventually you're going to be like, nah, I don't care. I'm over it. So you have to find your why, your motivation, whether it's competition to be better than others, whether it's a destination, something that you're trying to reach, get into law school, get into whatever, medical school, something that is motivating you. First thing is sit in the front. Now I'm going to tell you guys, take each one of these with a grain of salt because there's always excuses for certain classes. I didn't sit in the front in every class, but in the majority of them, especially ones I didn't understand much, I did sit in the front. So number one, halo effect. I'm sure you've heard of this, but if you haven't, it basically means that in the first couple weeks, your professor gets this idea of who you are. They kind of make an assumption and it kind of sticks throughout the semester. So if you're sitting in the first row and you're making eye contact, you're really showing that you're sitting in the class and paying attention. The professor somehow has this mentality that you're a good student and that you work hard and maybe boost your grade later in the semester because you sit in the front and you pay attention, which, fun fact, is not always true. I've made really great eye contact, but meanwhile, my fake note-taking on my laptop was me replying to emails for something totally different. If you are trying to get good grades, that you sit in the front and you keep yourself accountable, because if you're sitting there in the front, your professor's gonna know when you're in class, and if you're not in class, your professor's gonna recognize, and so you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I need to get to class. Number two, this is probably my favorite, and I genuinely pride myself on how I plan, but literally plan. Plan like you've never planned before, okay? So in the beginning of the semester of every year, I write down everything that's in the syllabus. So any deadlines, even things that are not necessarily graded, but something that I should note is happening on a certain day, I will write it out. So I will have a calendar in front of me. Sometimes it is by month. I like to highlight important things and deadlines, but especially in the calendar, on the actual day, I will write it in as well. And I will write it in a color that really stands out to me. So usually red, because red is a very vibrant color and kind of gives me anxiety. So that will remind me that there's deadlines. Very helpful. Number three, know the game plan. There is absolutely no way I go into a class without knowing what it entails. I've dropped classes for that reason, where I saw that their game plan was not something that I could win. Or if I did try to win, it would be too much time, too much effort, and I knew another professor was doing it way easier. So you need to know what components it entails. So every class, especially in college, on the syllabus will say what kind of projects, what percentage they are of the grade, exams, yada yada yada. I once had a class that had 50% participation and 50% final exam. You think I stayed in that class for long? Nah, I dodged. I was like, peace out, home skill biscuit, I'm out. So know what the components of the class are and what their grading scale is, and make sure it fits to you. So if you are okay with doing one project for the semester, having 2 quizzes, 3 exams, and 4 homework assignments, that's great. And you have to know what percentage each one of them is, and every time you get a grade back, write it in so that you know what track you're on. Because I've had times where I did horrible on the first exam. Like, when I'm saying horrible, I'm saying like I got a D or something. And then I brought it back up because I knew the components of the class. I knew that there was certain assignments that needed more of my attention, which would boost my grade even higher. So like, you need to know whether there's a scale, or whether there's a curve, like what is going on in this class. You need to be all about it. If someone asks you, you need to be like, okay, let me tell you. So this percentage, this percentage. Number 4, befriend upperclassmen. They know what you're going into already. I would ask my upperclassmen friends like, hey, I'm taking this professor, have you ever had them? Or did you hear anything about them? They will tell you what the tests are like. They will tell you what you should expect from the class and whether or not you need to run like the wind. Number 5, I find that people who end up with really good grades have friends who usually get good grades. So I'm going to say surround yourself with smart and accountable friends. Sit in the front and I'm sure you'll make friends. The people in the front are usually on task, they're ready to go, they know what they're doing. So I like to have a friend in every single class that I have their number or have their email. That way I can kind of find out what I missed if I'm absent, and also if you have homework questions. Number 6, make your projects mean something. This is something I regret so much that I didn't do all 4 years that I was in college, but it's something that I really recommend you do. Things that you invest your time in, make sure they're going to give you a good return. So I had one class where we went ahead and consulted for a company, and I didn't initially recognize that that would be so useful on my resume in the future, but almost every interview I've ever been on has asked me about that project, and they were so shocked, surprised. So number 7 is send your assignments early to your professors. Some professors accept your assignments early and they will grade them for you and tell you exactly what to fix. They will tell you literally the map to get an A. I mean, seriously, that helps so freaking much, especially in classes where you don't understand what exactly the professor wants from you. That's actually why I did email my essay to one of my professors, because like, I didn't understand why I was getting B's on the essays, and then when I sent it in early, I just fixed it to what he wanted. I was like, whatever, bruh. I don't think your corrections are correct, but I'll do it if that will give me an A. And it did. Number 8, pay attention to the details. I know that in high school especially, for projects would take forever just designing my PowerPoints, designing my posters. I remember, gosh darn, sitting up until like 2 in the morning, just like making sure that everything was right, like placed pretty. I would like reprint things if it didn't look good enough. So it's always in the details, you guys. Pay attention to making everything look a lot more like you put effort in. Be efficient. I cannot stress this enough, people. Okay? Number 9, most important. 1 hour of reading a chapter does not equal 1 hour of intense studying, because you need to know what exactly you need to know, is what I'm saying. Each class requires a different strategic, studying plan. And when you have a math class, reading a chapter may not exactly help you as much. Say you have 3 hours to study. Would it be better to sit there and read the chapter, or maybe go talk to a person in your class and have them show you examples, work on problems, or maybe even ask a TA? But be efficient. And if you guys want like a more thorough study guide, okay, where I can break it down to like math and science classes, English and like writing classes, and like history and classes, then let me know. I'd do that for you, because I still got all that in my noggin right now. I still have the success to studying in here. Number 10, this is so important because I feel a lot of people don't pay attention to this, but know your limit. There is a certain point where there's no point of you sitting there studying. Okay, do you know economics? Do you know diminishing marginal return? It means that the first unit of time that you spend doing something is far more meaningful to you than the next units. And as you study further and further, every hour further that you go studying gives you less and less and less of a percentage of, I guess, knowledge. Okay, so when you sit there and you force yourself to study from like 8 p.m. to like 3 a.m., you're studying, and you're like, yeah, I studied 9 hours. But how useful were those 9 hours? So personally, I've noticed myself doing a better job studying for 2 hours, dropping it, going to do something else, and coming back the next day and again studying for 2 hours and then going like doing something else. Because number one, I have a short attention span and it's hard for me to sit there for a long period of time to study, but you get so much more out of it. And I think that kind of plays into the role of being like efficient. I promise you that if you're sitting there falling asleep, that extra hour of you trying to like stay awake and read that chapter is not going to do much for you compared to what you've already been doing. So just go to sleep. Number 11, eliminate distractions and say no to Netflix. Number 12. So this is something very important that I learned kind of late in the game, but study to understand. Especially in college, you're taking these tests and exams and they might be a grade, but in the future you're going to need them at work. You're going to need to know this material. So instead of studying to memorize, like reading a flashcard and trying to like be like, okay, yeah, I know this, you need to understand it. So I used to talk to myself a lot when I studied, but what would happen is I would teach myself. I would talk out loud, trying to explain the material. Rather than just knowing the definition and what it is, I would try to apply it to my life. I would try to think of a photo, like some sort of image that reminds me of that. So maybe I can't understand it thoroughly, but I can explain it. Number 13, I kind of already mentioned, but change your game plan to each class. There's different types of studying required, and memorization won't help you in a math class, while problem solving might not help you in a writing class, you know? So you have to understand how to study for every class and see what works and what doesn't. Number 14, prepare for crunch time. These are usually times right before exams. Make sure you're ready. So I would have practice problems printed out. I would have practice tests and exams. Any exams from previous like times in that semester I would have printed out, erase all the answers, have myself take them over and over again. I would have vocab printed out so that I already had it on note cards. I basically was ready to go. So it's not like, oh, we have an exam tomorrow, let me start studying today. It was more like 2 weeks in advance. I was like, I already got my study guide done, let's get this thing started. And number 15, do more than you are asked. This is a really good motto throughout life as well, but when you're given a project and there's a certain expectation, definitely follow it. And I've learned in college especially that if they give you a page limit, like they want 3-page essay, don't go over it. Professors literally do not want to keep reading, okay? They get tired of it. But say they ask you to provide 2 examples of something. Go the extra mile and give a 3rd example, or go really in depth and in detail about those 2 examples. Give something extra, something that won't make the professor take more time to grade your stuff and kind of be an inconvenience to them, but something that will impress them. But basically what I'm saying is take the resources you have and utilize them. I'm not going to tell you that I didn't sit there at 3 in the morning sometimes studying, because I definitely did. It's not like every 4.0 student is sitting there, you know, prepared 3 weeks in advance. But when it's crunch time, when it's time that you need to get stuff done, they bail on their friends. They bail on things that they said that they would do because they need to study. They put grades as a priority. And that's what I did for the majority of my, years of studying. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. I don't know. I feel like I was sitting here like a coach, like, you know, like you need to do this, you need to do this. But genuinely, regardless what grades you get, okay, you're still an amazing human being, and don't beat yourself up over it, because I know that's what I did in high school, and I didn't know I was so stressed until I got into college and had a little bit of an easier time because I had more time to manage it all. But you don't realize you're stressed until you're really stressed, and then I'm still here. Like, how does one relax? If you have the answer for that, let me know, because still stressed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next one. I love you guys. Thanks for your support and your love, and I genuinely hope the best for your school year. May the good grades come to you. I love you guys. Bye!